Lesson 911, problem 9.3. In the first part of this problem, they want us to look at the quadratic equation, x squared minus 6x minus 1 equal to 0, and to try to solve this using the zero product property. So to do that, I need to get my generic rectangle and my diamond and see if I can factor this equation. So my x squared terms are in my bottom left-hand corner. My 1's in my top right. Multiply those together to get the top of my diamond. And then my x terms go in the bottom of my diamond. So now I'm trying to figure out the factors of negative x squared that add up to give me negative 6x's. So if I think about the factors of negative x squared, they would be negative x and positive x. There's no possible way to get those numbers to add up to negative 6x. So that makes this equation not factorable. So then the question is, if it's not factorable, does that mean there aren't any roots? There aren't any x-intercepts? So to check that, I'm going to go to my graphing calculator. And I've already put my equation in here, and I can take a look at the parabola. And so I'm noticing that there are, in fact, x-intercepts, and I'm going to click on them. And I can see that they're there, they're just decimals. Okay, so just because it's not factorable doesn't mean there aren't any roots. So I can take a look at those x-intercepts, and I'm gonna, I want to round those up to the 10th place so I can give myself an approximate answer here. So for that first one, I can rewrite that as negative 0.2 if I'm rounding to the 10th place. And my other one, if I'm rounding to the 10th place, would be 6.2. So I'm going to go back and write that on by my equation here. So that first one was approximately negative 0.2. And the other one was approximately 6.2. Okay. So now the question is, how can I figure out, is there another way to solve this so I can figure out what the exact solution would be? And so I'm going to do that by completing the square. So I'm going to set up my equation mat. And I'm just going to rewrite my equation, x squared minus 6x minus 1 equal to 0. All right, so here on the left, I've got an x squared tile. And I'm going to go ahead and make that, change that to blue because it's positive. I have my 1x squared tile. And then I have 6 negative x's, so I'm going to make those red. Now remember, I have to split those 6 x's up and put 3 above my x squared tile and 3 to the side. I'm trying to make a square. All right, and now what I have for my 1's is a negative 1, okay? So in this corner, right now, I have a negative 1. And I'm going to go ahead and write what the dimensions of this rectangle should be. So I have an x side and then a minus 3 because those are negative x's, and an x side and a minus 3. So now when I look at this corner here, negative 3 times negative 3 should make that corner 9. There needs to be 9 in that corner since the dimensions are negative 3 times negative 3. Well, right now I have a negative 1 there. So to make that 9, I would have to add a positive 10 to that negative 1 so that that negative 1 cancels out with one of the positive ones, and then I do in fact get 9 in that corner. And if I added a 10 to the left side, I need to add a 10 to the right side. Okay, So now I'm going to write what I have. I have on the left, I have a perfect square, x minus 3 squared. And on the right, I have 10 ones. So now we need to solve this to figure out what the x-intercepts are. So we're going to solve this for x. Okay? So to do that, I need to undo everything happening to x. So the first thing is I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And a square root takes out a square. They undo each other. So on the left, I'm left with x minus 3. And on the right, remember, I have plus or minus square root of 10. Right? Then I want to add 3 to both sides. So that gives me that x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 10. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite that. So one of my roots is at 3 plus the square root of 10. Okay, and the other root is at 3 minus the square root of 10. Okay, now if you were to take and put these numbers in your calculator, if you take 3 plus the square root of 10 and put it in your calculator, you're going to get, so that's our exact answer. If you put it in your calculator, you're going to get our approximate answer. So you'll get approximately negative 0.16. And if you take x equals 3 minus the square root of 10, which is an exact answer, you will get approximately 6.16. Okay, and if you remember, if we go back up and look at what we got when we found our roots on the graph, when we rounded it up, those are those approximate answers that we got. Okay, so when we leave our answer written with the radical, these are our exact answers. And when we write it with the decimals where it's approximated, those are our approximate answers. Okay. So if we were to go and make a graph by hand, we would have to plug those exact answers into our calculator and get our approximate answers to be able to graph it. Okay, we're going to do this for the next problem in problem 9.3. So the next problem they give us is x squared plus 4x minus 5 equal to negative 2. All right, before so I'm going to complete the square because I want to find my exact answer. Before I do that, I want to get all of my numbers, all of my terms on one side of my equal sign. So I want to get rid of that negative 2 on the right. So I'm going to just add 2 to both sides. So I have x squared plus 4x minus 3 equal to 0. Okay, now I'm going to get my equation mat set up. Okay, so on the right I've got 0, and on the left I'm going to go ahead and put in the tiles I have. So I'm going to put my x squared as positive, so make it blue. Then I have 4 positive x's, so I'm going to split those in half and put 2 of them above my x squared tile and 2 of them to the right. And then so I know right now that my dimensions are going to need to be x plus 2 times x plus 2. So that means that this corner is going to have how many? 2 times 2. So there needs to be 4 positive tiles there to complete that square. Okay, well, what I have right now from my equation is I have negative 3 in there. So I have a negative 3 in here. Now, what do I need to add to make that number in there positive 4? Well, if I add 7, so negative 3 plus 7 gives me 4. Okay, so if I added 7 to the left, I'm going to add 7 to the right. Okay, so now here's what we have. We have the perfect square x plus 2 on the left, and on the right we have 7 ones. And now we just need to figure out what the exact roots are. So we're going to solve for x. So we're going to undo this square and take the square root on both sides. That square root cancels out the square, and I'm left with x plus 2 on the left. And then remember, this is plus or minus square root of 7 on the right. So then I keep solving for x, subtract 2 from both sides, and I have x equals negative 2 plus or minus square root of 7. And if I want to write those exact answers, I have negative 2 plus square root of 7. Oops. And then I have x equals negative 2 minus square root of 7. Okay, so those are my exact answers. And if I want to go ahead and graph this, I would take those numbers, negative 2 plus square root of 7, put it into my calculator, and that would give me approximately 0.65. And I can do the same thing with the second root, take negative 2 minus square root of 7 in my calculator, and that would give me negative 4.65 approximately. So then those would be my approximate answers. Okay, so if a question asks you to solve for the exact roots, you want to leave your answers with the radicals. If they want the approximate roots or you're trying to graph it, you would have to take those numbers, that exact answer, put it in your calculator, and get the approximate decimal values.